everybody. It's been quite some time since I told a story, but I've got some stories lined up. Tonight's story, however, is going to be about the Woodson family. This is the story of the Woodson family. If you leave camp to go to Boston, you go through Limerick, cross over a bridge, you enter Waterboro. You'll see a sign saying Woodson Lumber Company. This is the company and the people that dealt with the camp, stories about these people. I did a lot of research on them, and I've written down a lot of notes. So this time I'm reading from my notes, as well as telling it from my mind. If you go back to England in 1903, there was a marriage of Anthony and Elizabeth Woodson. They were a couple that gave birth to their only child, Thomas Woodson, in 1917. In those days, it was custom to give a coin of the year of the birth of the child, and it was kept with him for good luck for the rest of his life. This is such a coin. The family came to the United States in 1930 and settled in northern Maine. Thomas grew to manhood, married Abigail Wilson, and went into the field of forestry. He became aware of a lumber company going bankrupt in the Waterboro area. He bought it up in 1940 and spent a lot of money refurbishing equipment and opened in 1941 as Woodson Lumber Company. You can see the signs you enter Waterboro, as I said, leaving Limerick. Thomas and Abigail had one son, whose name was Clarence, they called him Bud, who now runs the business. Thomas and Abigail were hard-working, church-going folks who were no-nonsense people and demanded excellence from their employees as well as from their customers. However, Thomas had a strange hobby. He was an expert in wood carving. He'd take a jackknife and would start from scratch with a piece of wood and carve these bizarre figures or sculptures. People with strange faces, weird postures, one arm or three arms, four legs, etc. A strange kind of thing, but other than that, it was a perfectly normal person. The Westonhouse camp has had a number of building opportunities during the years. In each case, when the land was cleared for the building structures, trees were sold for the value to lumber companies. Thomas Woodson and Abigail used to go fishing on Long Pond, and they realized that Westonhouse camp had a lot of acreage. They approached Jack Burns with the idea of thinning out the woods in a proper manner, and therefore the Westonhouse could realize some revenue from the sale of lumber. So in the fall of 1944, Westonhouse Camp signed an agreement with Woodson Lumber for the company to harvest trees from certain areas of the property. Woodson estimated that the revenue for this would be about $8,000, which was a lot of money in those days. But when the work was all said and done, he figured only $7,000 that was realized. He went to Jack Burns and he explained that it was only $7,000 because he felt a lot of wood had gone bad, had rotted, was not suitable for resale or for building houses. Jack Burns protested and basically said to the Woodson family, "I think you cheated us and I won't do business with you anymore." Thomas and Abigail felt very badly, and being God-fearing people, went to a small church in Parsonsfield to pray for guidance. Walking in, they heard the church bell ring and the pastor calling service to order. As Thomas sat there, he realized what the problem was. The church bell had somehow released the block in his mind, and he somehow charged the wrong rate, and the camp was indeed owed another $800. He went home and asked his wife to give him 8 $100 bills from the cash drawer and hurried to the camp to redeem himself. As he rode his buggy through the entrance to the camp, he hit a bump in the road and was thrown from the cart, and his head hit a rock and became disoriented. The 8 $100 bills, which he was holding in his hand, flew off into the wind and was never recovered. Some of the older campers came across the scene and tried to help. Thomas, who was lying on the ground, was disoriented and speaking incoherently. Jack Burns was out of camp for a couple of days tending to business in Boston, so the campers summoned the assistant director for his advice. They realized the person was Thomas Woodson, and the assistant director called Mrs. Woodson to come to the camp. But before she reached the camp, Thomas had become so disoriented and so combative that he attacked the campers and pushed them down and knocked them unconscious. In the midst of all this activity, the birth coin from his birth, which Thomas had carried with him since he was born, flew out of his hands. The coin was picked up by one of the campers. Mrs. Woodson came to the camp, took her husband to the doctor, who did his best but could not save its life. Mrs. Woodson suspected something was wrong since the money was missing, but she could not prove anything. He is buried, and she swore that the camp was to blame, and says that somehow he would be back and revenge would be exacted. Soon afterwards, campers started to hear church bells ringing during activities, reminiscent of Thomas's hearing church bells and seeing the light, as it were. The location of the bells was never found, but when they did ring, it would strike fear into the hearts of the campers and the counselors who knew the saying, "Ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." The camp counselors did not cause Thomas's death on purpose, but nevertheless, they are responsible for it. I knew this story, but didn't think much of it. As you know, at night I often go up to the field in the golf cart and patrol the area. One night when I was up there, I heard a bell ringing, and I followed the sound. And as I went down the road that never ends across near the soccer field, I saw somebody running away from a tree stump. And when he ran away, something fell out of his pocket. It was the coin from Thomas Woodson. And as I looked at the tree stump, there was a strange face carved on it. It was almost as if Thomas Woodson would come back to haunt the camp. So when you go down the road that never ends, and many of you have seen this tree stump, it's got a bizarre face carved on it. So a crooked smile and eyes set apart. And it was not there years ago, and it appeared. And I believe it was carved by Thomas Woodson's ghost. So when you go up there at night, watch out for the bells, watch out for the coin, and watch out for the stump.